Okay, if the board members could please make sure you have your microphones on, we're ready to get started. You good, Mike? Okay, good evening. It's 6:30 p.m. on Monday, February 23rd. I'd like to call to order the Village of Brookfield Board meeting. Would everyone please join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mike, we have a roll call, please.
Yep. Trustee Ketchmark.
Here.
Trustee Whitehead. Here. Trustee Hendricks.
Here.
Trustee Naramatsu.
Here.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Here.
Trustee Kaluzny.
Here.
President Garvey.
Here.
Present.
Thank you, Mike. We do not have any appointments and presentations. At this point, I'm going to open up the meeting to public comment. All types of public comment are allowed during this portion. If you are here to comment on the cannabis dispensary issue, per the board's policy, we're always very liberal. We let people talk. I ask if you please don't repeat previous comments or points that were made previously. If you spoke, you're free to do it, but the board has been very diligent in listening. I know the board's listened to your emails, listened to your public comment. You're free to say whatever you like, but just if you don't want to, we'd prefer if you didn't repeat things. And it is public comment. It's not a question and answer for the board or staff. So I'm going to start on this side and ask, is there any public comment at this point in time? Okay, Mitsy.
Hi, good evening. Mitsy Norton, 3841 Morton Avenue. I'll edit what I was going to say. I won't be necessarily repeating anything I said last time. So I remain wholly in favor of granting the special use permit to Prolific Dispensary to open the shop on 31st Street. I just have done a lot of thinking since the committee of the whole meeting, and what I heard at that meeting were concerns and reasoning against the permit that kind of fell into three categories. One was concerns over traffic and parking safety, concerns about crime, and third, that Brookfield doesn't need a dispensary because there are already dispensaries in nearby and adjacent towns, so people can shop there. So I was reviewing the materials for tonight's meeting, and I just wanted to thank Prolific for obtaining the traffic study from KLOA and for the village for engaging Hancock Engineering in relation to the parking safety. So I was refreshed to read the results of both of those studies, that from both KLOA and from Hancock, that there are no valid concerns about increased traffic accidents, increased traffic in general that would create any kind of obstruction to the traffic that already exists in the area, and that there is sufficient parking on site already at the intersection of 31st and Park. We heard a lot about accidents. I also read in the reports that across the past 5 years, they counted all the accidents. There were only 3 accidents at that intersection that didn't even involve a vehicle turning northbound onto Park and so on. So anyway, I don't feel like there's any concern about traffic. In relation to crime, we did hear our village manager report that he talked to all the police departments of the nearby towns that have dispensaries, and they've received 0 incidences of calls in relation to the dispensaries in their town. Finally, just in response to people can shop in other towns, that Brookfield doesn't need a dispensary, you know, I disagree with that rationale. I think that we're a town that doesn't think like that, that we just opened Milk and Manna Cafe, or some women just opened a cafe on Grand Boulevard, which is across the street from Social Play, which houses a cafe, down the block from Brookfield Breakfast that sells coffee, a block from Gosha's Coffee Shop, a block and a half from Loca Mocha, within a mile of Dunkin'. So point is, there's multiple places within Brookfield where you can buy a cup of coffee, but that hasn't stopped us from allowing new businesses, which I think is what's so wonderful about here in Brookfield. I know that we can all come up with alternate similar scenarios about salons, bars, auto body shops, and so on, but my point is that I hope that we don't use the rationale that people could shop in other towns to get their X, Y, or Z when we can have it here. And in this case in particular, Prolific Dispensary would be the first of its kind in Brookfield. There would be no other similar shop to Prolific Dispensary. So all the more reason to allow this now. So I ask you to consider all this data, which I know that you will because you're a wonderful board with wonderful critical thinking skills, and I just appreciate your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Who else on this side? I'm just gonna have to, it's hard to see from back here, so I'm gonna do my honor system, just,
Okay. Meaghan Cullen, 9047 28th Street, 3 blocks from the proposed spot for this dispensary. Members of the village board, I am here as a resident, close to that proposed site, currently seeking a special use permit in our residential neighborhood of Brookfield, Illinois. This isn't a main thoroughfare like the other streets where you will find dispensaries. It's not Roosevelt Road, it's not Mannheim, it's not First Avenue, it's not Harlem Avenue. This is 31st Avenue. First and foremost, the issue is not about shaming cannabis users or opposing legal businesses. It's about traffic safety, neighborhood character, and the well-being of the families who actually live in that section of Brookfield. The traffic study funded by the village itself acknowledges there will be an increase in vehicle traffic, despite what the last person said. Even a moderate increase in significant traffic in a residential area where children walk, ride bikes, and wait for school buses will be significant. More cars mean more risk, and that reality should not be dismissed. Statewide data also shows that the Illinois cannabis market is not booming in the way that Tanya Griffin and the Laws family often imply. While the number of units sold in Illinois increased, overall retail revenue declined roughly 14% in 2025, due largely to price compression and competition, according to recent market reports. This means that the market is not generating high economic output than previously stated, calling into question claims that another dispensary is urgently needed to serve the community. It also is deeply concerning that the competitor's analysis presented by the dispensary's representative omits the 3 closest dispensaries, all located less than 3 miles from the current proposed site. Excluding those existing businesses paints an incomplete and potentially misleading picture of market need and projected traffic impact. If there are already multiple dispensaries serving the area, what justifies placing another directly in the middle of a residential neighborhood? Again, we weren't here about the one that was proposed on Ogden Avenue because it's not about shaming cannabis or being against.
The village board. I'm going to ask everyone to do the same thing. Please address the village board. This is public comment to the village board, so thank you.
It's not about shaming cannabis. It's about putting it at this site. Equally troubling has been the tone taken by the dispensary's representative, Tanya Griffin, of Water and Trees. Referring to concerned residents as a fear-mongering circus is not only condescending, dismissive, and also disrespectful. Neighbors who attend meetings, review studies, and speak about traffic safety and quality of life concerns are engaging in civic participation, not theatrics. We live here, and we know exactly what goes on in that section of Brookfield. Such remarks do not foster constructive dialogue and should not be rewarded with an approval of a permit. These same neighbors are the ones who will turn out to vote for the next board election, and the PEP party will certainly be remembered for this choice they make today. The majority of residents who have spoken out are not acting out of fear or prejudice. We are asking you, as our elected representatives, to prioritize the safety of our children and the character of our neighborhood. Your responsibility is to represent the will and the welfare of the community. From what has been expressed at meetings, in petitions, and through conversations across town, the vast majority of residents do not want this business placed in this residential location, despite the fact that Libby Popovich excluded those petitions and letters and emails from her special use permit documentation. This decision will send a clear message about whose voices matter and whose do not to the PEP party. I respectfully ask you to stand with the residents you were elected to represent and deny this special use permit.
Leslie Everson, 9134 29th Street. So I wrote 3 letters, or Megan and I wrote 3 letters, and we emailed them to everyone in this room, one on January 21st, and all 3 of them again on February 17th. I did put copies of them out in the hall because I didn't see them included in the recent packet, and I don't really know why they're not included, but I just wanted to kind of summarize what some of my concerns were, some of our things that I think we brought up. One, just, I mean, really, it's just sort of, I don't want to have less restrictive requirements applied to some businesses than others, creating what appears to be preferential treatment. That I know that there's concern about this being a vacant property, and that's one of the, strong opinions that the dispensary has, that they sort of fill that void, but it doesn't fill that void. So there's still a section of that property that's going to be vacant, and I would argue is actually harder to rent or find someone to use that space in a viable way after the dispensary takes a portion of it. The other portion of that first letter was, just talking about the parking requirements as they apply to just the village code for that 2,900 square foot property. It doesn't meet the village code requirements for parking spaces. And I know that was sort of held as the way that we judged the last person that wanted to use that property. So I think it's important to be consistent in how you look at these different properties. I know that the dispensary has included a parking study from Lindgren, O'Hare, and Abduna, which I was calling CLOA, but KLLA. They looked at I just looked at the 2,900 square foot property and as it relates to the village code, and I found that they needed, I think, 12 parking spaces, and they actually have 6. CLOA looked at the building in total, so that the 4,400 square foot building, and kind of what parking spaces they required. I found their report very confusing. In the first paragraph, they cite the ITE parking manual that's at a 5.55 rate times the 2,900 square foot, they get 16 parking spaces, which that math works out, and that math is correct. But then they go on a couple paragraphs later to say that the entire 4,400 square foot building, including the 6 for the residences above and 3 for the vacant property, which I don't know where they got that number either, and then you needed 7 for the 2,900 square foot for the dispensary. So they got 16 for just the 2,900 foot, and then later, a couple paragraphs later, got 16 for the total property. So, both can't be true, and one is not supported by any sort of code. There are 3 spots for the vacant space next. Again, I don't know where they got that number. The ITE manual doesn't support either of those numbers. Neither does the Brookfield Code of Ordinances. So, according to their math, the corrected requirement should be that the dispensary requires, the whole building requires 28 parking spaces, which there is not close to that many parking spaces available. They also, that Hancock has been included in the addition of the parallel parking spaces on Park Avenue. Their report actually says that it's going to increase traffic through the neighborhood. They said anyone entering those parallel parking spaces facing south would be coming from the neighborhood, and then anyone leaving the diagonal spaces would be actually driving through the neighborhood. So, they didn't say there was any evidence that it was going to increase accidents at the particular intersection of 31st and Park. I don't know that anyone was really that concerned about accidents there. I think most people that talked about accidents were actually talking about Maple and 31st, as opposed to that particular just intersection. So no evidence that it's not going to, not going to increase accidents at this point. I don't know that there is evidence. There's that the building's, doesn't have a business in it right now. Also not a major intersection. I don't know that that's a particular compelling argument to me. But they did say that it increases traffic through the neighborhood, which I think is most of the residents' concerns. The third letter I wrote was in regards to the tax that is listed in that packet that the villager is going to receive. First of all, the 5% tax, I don't know where that rate came from. There's so many, Illinois Department of Revenue, the Illinois Municipal League, the village's own code, the petitioner's own permit says 3% in there 4 different times, so I don't know where 5% came from. And then you also cannot tax medical cannabis, which is, as historical data goes through the state of Illinois, is, 15 to 20%. So those tax numbers that are calculated to say what the revenue that the city is going to get it's roughly off by, 40% is off the top. That's the difference between 3 and 5%. And then taking out medical sales is closer to 50%. So I just think that we need to, I'm not sure where the wrong numbers came from. And I don't want anyone making any judgments on something that is greatly outweighed. I mean, to get $200,000, that's like $6.7 million worth of annual sales, which is a lot more than what is sort of stated. So that's my summary, and it's really, I just mostly concerns over, yes, the traffic through the neighborhood, but treating each business that applies to use this building fairly, and looking at codes fairly, and looking at tax revenue fairly. So, thank you.
And your emails did get to the entire board. Either you sent them directly or I made sure they got to the entire board. So thank you for
Okay.
taking the time to send them.
Thank you.
Who else on this side? Just Mr. Clark. I want to let Mr. Clark come up first, and the gentleman in front of Mr. Clark.
My name's Frank, I live at 3309 Arthur. I'm against it, I've been in a lot of meetings for 12-step programs. I'm in a 12-step program, and I've seen a lot of families destroyed. This is a good village, I want to keep it that way. This is not gonna draw anything but drug addicts and problems. Now, I suggest, if you wanna see how this affects families, go talk to an open meeting with drug addicts and see the families that have destroyed. So, thank you, and I do apologize for the language I used last week.
That's okay, Mr. Clark. Thank you for coming out.
Please,
Thank you.
turn it down.
Thank you for your apology.
And whatever they tell you they're gonna make, believe me, they're gonna make money.
Okay, the gentleman that was in front of Mr. Clark, was there someone there on the end that was raising their hand? Or?
No, I was the biggest.
Oh, okay. That was very nice of you. Who else on this side then? Ma'am?
Hello. Meaghan Allen, 9431 Jefferson. I'm just going to keep this brief. I'm in favor of this, and I ask that you guys support it. I honestly didn't realize we were going to be able to make comment today, so I'm just going to go back to some old comments.
I'm sorry, there's public comment at every meeting.
No, I know. I didn't know we were going to be able to talk about this.
The board likes to hear people, so.
So I heard reference to a majority of the village is against this, and you guys have received petitions with a significant amount of people against this. Having sat on a board myself, I'm assuming that you also have the critical thinking skills to understand that that doesn't represent the village as a whole, and we should also be thinking about the benefits that this dispensary can bring. They spoke about the revenue last year. We're looking at $79,000 the first year, $190,000 the second year, and possibly $200,000 the third year, and on up from there. I also think that the traffic concerns have obviously been squashed because of the traffic study that they so generously did on their own. And I understand that there might be questions about those, but there's a reason you hire professionals to do these things, because they're the ones who know how to do them.
Hey, please, everyone's got a chance to talk. Please don't interrupt other people while they're talking.
As far as security, they're more secure than most banks I've ever worked at. It's a booming business. All of the projections across the board, if you listen to economists, I'm a nerd, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I recently listened to a podcast that talked about, it's actually a union-related podcast. They're talking about organizing labor in the cannabis industry because it's projected to be a $30 billion a year industry by 2030. I don't think our largest unions in the country would be talking about organizing cannabis-related employees if that wasn't reliable information. I also think that we don't, to one of the previous speakers' points, we don't have a dispensary in Brookfield, and we would greatly benefit from it. I read that we're talking about doing a new logo, and that's going to cost a lot, and there's a lot of other things that I know the village would like to do. I think that would help ease the financial burden of some of these things. And I'm not even going to address yeah, that's all I've got without being repetitive. But hopefully we can see you guys support this, or at least the majority. I'd love to see this pass. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Who else on this side? Was there anyone else on this side, my right side? Last row?
Good evening. My name is Brian Seville. My home is 175 steps from the proposed marijuana store, a home my grandparents built in 1956. What I'm about to present can all be found on the Landmark newspaper website. On July 25, 2019, these two gentlemen tried to rob the same address as the proposed marijuana store with guns. At the time, it was just a mere antique store. After hours of a police helicopter searching from above and dogs searching on the ground, this one was caught coming out of a backyard on 30th Street. This one got away, but left a loaded handgun in another yard, later found by a resident, thankfully not a child. Just think how much of a crime and criminal magnet this store will be with all the marijuana and cash crossing the sidewalks and parking lots. For me and my neighbors, the danger is real. For the applicant, it is a known risk and cost of doing business the applicant will refuse to acknowledge. Instead, they will paint a pretty picture that is all sunshine and rainbows. The marijuana store will have security, yes. Will they provide security to my house? Will they provide security to my neighbor's house? Even the ice cream shop there has had break-ins. Will any of the staff or the owners have guns which they may feel compelled to shoot to defend themselves, creating crossfire near homes, school bus routes, and an ice cream shop? The precious marijuana may be safe in the vault. The precious money may be safe in the till and the ATM. The soft targets, the easy targets, will be the customers outside with wads of cash in their hands or bags of marijuana in their hands, or whoever gets in the way. 5 guys in a stolen car with guns and covered faces are not afraid of an unarmed security guard. An assault and robbery takes only a few seconds. The security guard will be helpless to do anything. Then the bad guys flee down 31st Street or Maple Avenue and get out of town. There is nothing security or police on the other side of town can do about it. But before they flee, what direction do their guns discharge? Over at the houses? Up at the upstairs apartments where a child lives? Or over to the little girl sitting on the picnic table at the ice cream shop? Do you intend to install bollards into the sidewalk for vehicle ramming attacks that can go through doors, windows, and walls? Now, even if you do install bollards, the attackers will just steal and use a bigger truck. It's been done many times with stolen U-Haul trucks, risking lives in the area, including upstairs tenants. This can happen during operating hours or when upstairs residents are sleeping. There can be building collapse because of this or fire. Go to Google sometime. You could even do it right now. Google cannabis dispensary robbery fire. That was cannabis dispensary robbery fire. Up at the top, it will say shopping, images, or videos. Click on videos and then scroll and scroll, and you'll be scrolling for a very, very long time. Please do this before you vote. These are things you should see to make a fully informed decision. What lawsuits may the village expose itself to when someone is hurt or killed? The Water and Trees CEO helped to open Snap Canna Dispensary in Elk Grove Village. Among the store inventory are edibles, candy basically, which have child-friendly, child-enticing packaging and product names. Product names such as Funnies Gummies, OG's Gummies, Cushy Punch, Smokies Fruit Chews, Incredibles. Remember the Incredibles Pixar animated movie for kids? Same name. Pineapple Cream Cake Gummies, and several chocolate bars that look just like regular chocolate, unless you know what THC means. I know kids cannot get into the store, but you are still putting these products out there into the neighborhood. I wonder, when is the strip club coming? A strip club would make a lot of tax money. If the residents there don't like it, well, who cares? There is a U.S. Postal mailbox right in front of the proposed marijuana store. With federal marijuana laws, will it be legal with a mailbox right there? If you can rezone it for marijuana, then you can instead rezone it to be 2 or 3 apartments or a nice first floor condo. After all, it is a residential building in a residential neighborhood. Now, who's going to complain about that? I met with a tenant from the upstairs apartments above the proposed site. They were not informed about the meetings to discuss this issue. Otherwise, they would have attended to voice their many objections, as they had done when the daycare was being considered. But they didn't not know, so they did not come. Perhaps the village could reach out as well. It would only take 3 door knocks or 3 phone calls. After all, these are the 3 that actually live on top of the proposed site. They enjoy living there, and none of them have any plans to move out. honestly, I have this feeling of dread that despite the vast majority of the neighborhood residents saying, no, please don't do this to us, all these pleas will fall on deaf ears. Forgive me if I seem crass, but I feel like we are being bent over a table and told to take it and told to like it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else, one more time on my right side? Okay. Anybody on my left side? Sir, on the end there?
You have one over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go at the end? I represent the applicant.
Yeah, I will give you a chance. Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Richard Donovan. I live at 2925 Vernon Avenue. I just got a few comments to make. First of all, on traffic, I don't know about this thing they did, whatever study, but on general, in the summertime, when I try to get to my home and zoo traffic is in full swing from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. or whatever the time is, it's difficult just to get to my home. If you add this dispensary, it's going to be extremely more difficult. I don't care what study says what, they're wrong. Secondly, Candy Cane Park is right there, right down the street. During zoo traffic time, people will be fighting to get to this store. 31st Street will be extremely crowded. How are they going to get to this store? They're going to come off of Maple Avenue down every side street, passing Candy Cane Park. Will some kid get hit by someone desperate to get to the store? Or in the fight of traffic to get to the store? Nobody knows. But it's a bad idea. Another point is, not long ago, every police department in America was arresting people for small amounts of marijuana, including myself when I was a young kid. People have records still to this day for small amounts of marijuana. But now that marijuana is so enlightening to communities for financial purposes to the communities, it's a great thing. No big deal. It's wonderful. This is a wonderful thing. That's bull crap. It was bull crap then when you were arresting people and charging them with crimes. And today, it's a great thing because it makes money. I don't want my property value to go down or anyone else's. I can't prove that it will. I don't know that it will. But over time, I believe it will. And over time, people are going to leave this community and other people will come in. Because property values will be down. Also, just like my daughter that I raised and lied to when she asked me if I ever done drugs, I lied to her and I told her never to lie. And that was because I didn't want her to think that I turned out okay and that smoking marijuana was okay to do. And when she got to college, she asked me that question again and I told her the truth and she was really mad at me. But I explained to her, I lied to her because I didn't want her to think that it was okay to do and you could turn out all right. Because I know a lot of people in this world who didn't turn all right from just starting marijuana. Also, alcohol. Alcohol creates a lot of crime. So now you want to multiply it by adding this store. Only because of revenue. There's no other reason for this board to even consider this if it wasn't just because of revenue. If you want to smoke marijuana, anyone on the board, you go to another town and you buy it. And you get in a little party together and you smoke it. But the only reason for you to consider this is because either you have friends who want to open this dispensary, or it's money. It's pure and simple. I don't think it's a great idea. I think it's absolutely a bad idea. It's my opinion. Secondly, I'm a voter. I don't play any politics. I don't go out in town and push politics, but I can guarantee you I will mobilize as many people as I can in our community against the entire board if this gets approved. So I hope you all consider that, not only from me, I hope every member of the community who sees this online or who is here will take heed and vote and get out the vote against every single one of you. If this is about money, if it's $200,000, it's nothing compared to what you'll do to this community. Maybe not today, but in 20 years, in 15 years, in 30 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out. Who else on this side? On the end, yes? John, I'll get you in the back.
Hi, I am Deanne Curelo. I live at 9104 Roach. I do want to start off apologizing that I had reached out to the board with questions once the packet came out, and I had personal matters which prevented me from following up. So I'm going to do it here. I am opposed to it. I do know that the doors have been open, that the board has already approved it to have cannabis use, and I'm not here to argue against whether or not we should have it in the village. To me, the question is whether it's appropriate at this location. This is a C4. It's not meant to draw out of town people to come and shop. It's C1 is the appropriate district for this. That's what's in the plan for the prolific, is to draw people from out of town. Again, don't put it in a C4 where there's apartments above and residents next to it. No other community has this in their community. I also want to say that I know we're talking about crime. I don't believe that crime is going to happen more because it's a cannabis store. I believe it might happen more because it's just an adult use. I think you put a bar in there, you put another liquor store, you're still going to have the same problems. And that corridor on 31st has already a lot of adult uses. Please don't abandon this stretch of the street to be just adult uses. We already have Cordial, we have Blue Water, we have the liquor store. We don't need any more adult uses there. Let's look at something else for this corridor. I also know we're talking about the traffic, or I'm going to go back, sorry, to the crime. I know it was also mentioned that the village manager reached out to other communities. I sent you guys police reports from Westchester. So to say that crime doesn't happen at these places, it does. Again, not more than a bar, not more than other adult uses, but crime does happen. As far as the traffic study is concerned, on 31st Street, I agree. It's not going to increase traffic much. But what residents were saying is it's Maple that is the issue, and Park and Roach, and then Bartlett and 29th Street over there. The traffic study does not address that. It doesn't tell you how much traffic goes down Park. It doesn't tell you how much traffic goes down Maple. And when I was reading it, it said that the prolific is supposed to have about 20 people per hour on weekdays and 40 per hour on weekends. If you're doing just an 8-hour shift, that's 160 cars going down. If they're going down Park and Park only has 30 cars going down it, that's a lot to us. That's going to be a huge impact. Now, if they're all going to 31st, that's no problem. But we're not, the way the diagonal parking is looking, they're not going to be. They're going to be going down Park. I was also, after looking after the packet, I was very concerned about the parking requirements. I'm quite honestly confused at all that has transpired. At the Plan Commission meeting, your staff told us that there was nobody up in the apartments. We said, no, there were people up there. At the committee of the whole, we are told that the parking, tenants aren't required to have parking, but per code, it looks like they're all required to have 2 parking spots. So I don't understand how this is going to be meeting the parking requirements, because when I've looked at the other proposals, they weren't allowed to use the diagonal. They weren't able to use parking spaces that the village provided. They all had to provide their own. And when you go into that back parking lot, there may be 4 other spaces. But then I also read that they're going to have 3 deliveries, which tells me that they're going to need a dock area for them. How is that going to fit in that back parking lot? I don't quite understand how that's going to happen. Like I said, I really hope you guys look at it as whether this fits. I don't think it fits the character. Like I said, you have residents. It makes it so much different than every other community. And I really hope you take a look at it. With that said, if you do approve it, I think the Laws family, I spoke to them after the meeting. I'm so impressed with them, and I think they are wonderful business owners. I really wish they were doing a different business, but like I said, I really hope you put more pride into 31st for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else on this side? John, John Platt? Okay, and then I'll get you.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Platt. I live at 3649 Madison, Brookfield, Illinois. I want to talk again today about my support and hope for the board considering a welcoming city ICE restriction ordinance. First, I want to make a fundamental comparison to what ICE agents are doing and what policing looks like in our own community. Twice in my 30 years of living in Brookfield, I've witnessed arrests in my neighborhood. The first involved an intoxicated, belligerent young man who chased after his female companion, knocked her down on the sidewalk, and attempted to fight with my neighbor, who had run out to intervene. The responding Brookfield police officer took the time to de-escalate the situation, and without even raising his voice, got the young man to quietly accept his arrest. The second involved a Brookfield officer stopping a van driven by a man with an outstanding judicial warrant. The officer discovered that a young boy, the driver's son, was sitting in the back seat. The officer spent an hour in his car making phone calls back and forth with extended family, then waited while an agreed upon individual well known to the police, well known to the boy, well known to the boy arrived to pick him up. That child did not have to spend 1 minute frightened and alone in a police station, let alone be sent thousands of miles away from his family and into a detention facility. What the Brookfield police did was not only good policing, it is the heart of who we are. What we see ICE doing with the encouragement and full support of their superiors, our whole neighborhoods violently targeted with toxic chemicals, parents violently being dragged from cars while picking up their children from school, and peaceful protesters shot and even killed with no effort at accountability on the part of those in charge. This cannot be our new normal. It is becoming more and more clear that violence and intimidation by ICE agents are not only their method, it is their purpose. It is happening to both American citizens and immigrants. But to those individuals who still see undocumented immigrants as people wholly separate from ourselves, with no rights whatsoever, let me say this. My dad was brought to America as a child. For a significant portion of his life, he would have been classified as undocumented. He worked from the time that he was a teenager, cared for his naturalized extended family during the Great Depression, and right after the attack on Pearl Harbor, enlisted in the United States Army. Now, the military took a dim view of him enlisting without U.S. documentation. So as was his right, he got an immigration court hearing, received a waiver, and later filed for his naturalization papers. Those laws that enabled him to do this have not changed, but are now being ignored. I know that passing a nice ordinance restricting them from using village property to organize and stage raids does not give our police department the authority to enforce it. I am hoping, though, that it can give them some additional options in using their tact and discretion to diffuse situations that might occur, as well as giving the village of Brookfield an opportunity to make a strong statement of support to our residents who are not U.S. citizens. Those same values that oblige us to be nonviolent, respectful to others, and follow the law of the land also demand of us a public opposition to those in power who break the law and seek to avoid any accountability. Locally, we can only hope to limit the damage being done. And I know it will be up to voters of this country to stop the progression of violent and often lawless behavior on the part of the Border Patrol and immigrant enforcement. I urge us all to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Blue shirt right here. Sorry. You don't know what the view's like up here. I can only just see heads and hands, so.
Hello, my name is Kevin Donovan. I live at 3115 Park Avenue, less than a half a block from the proposed dispensary. While I'll say I'm not fully enthusiastic about a dispensary opening there, I came here to say that I'm even less enthusiastic about the idea of this spot remaining vacant for potentially another 6 years. I know the biggest concerns regarding this dispensary regard traffic and crime. I want to start by saying with traffic, this is zoned as a retail location. That means a business has to go there. Any successful business is going to bring more traffic to the area. I know parking and traffic were a reason that the daycare was blocked, but you block a daycare, you block a dispensary, eventually something's got to go there, otherwise you'll have to rezone the location. And as far as crime is concerned, vacant lots are targets for vandalism. Well, just last year, a window was shattered at this location. Glass was strewn across the sidewalk. The glass was not cleaned up for days. Had there been an occupant in that location, at least the glass would have been cleaned up and maybe even the window would have never been smashed. There's also the concerns about fire safety. A vacant lot are actually at a higher risk of arson in addition to vandalism. Any fire in vacant lots take longer to be reported. There's no one there. And by the time the fire department gets there, they're out of control. Also, I have heard concerns about property values going down in the area. And I have actually done some research on this. I looked into studies regarding dispensaries and their impact on neighboring property values. And the conclusions seemed pretty mixed, with some studies even showing an increase in property values. What's not mixed is the impact of vacant lots on neighboring values. A study in Cleveland showed that properties within 500 feet of a vacant lot have their value decreased by 2%. In Atlanta, that can be as much as 3%. And that's, not just my own personal worth for the property I own or my neighbors, that's also additional revenue that could go to the village. Now, like I said, I am not enthusiastic about a dispensary. I'm, in fact, rather ambivalent about it. But my point is, if you're going to vote no, I should hope that you have other parties that you know that are interested in this location, because I think leaving this spot unoccupied for another 6 years would be unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Yes, yeah.
Hello. My name is Cary Phillips, and I've been a resident of Brookfield for 31 years with my husband. And I am here today, similar to what you heard John Platt talk about. I'm very concerned about the aggressive and terrorizing actions of federal immigration agents, based on what we've seen in Chicago last fall and what we've seen more recently in Minneapolis. And I'm concerned that there will be a surge, in the coming months in our community, and that it could have a horrible effect on the residents and people who work and visit the community. So I do want to thank the board and the village for releasing the community statement last fall. That was very helpful. And while it does address many concerns, I'm asking that Brookfield take the additional step of adopting an ordinance or resolution declaring Brookfield a welcoming community. And this could specify additional steps, including not allowing village property to be used for civil immigration enforcement. Another thing it could clarify is that non-police village staff, in addition to police, would not assist in immigration enforcement. I recently sent a letter to everyone on the board about this matter with more detail, and I thank everyone who responded to me. And I hope that you will take the step of adopting a welcoming resolution. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out, Karen. Anyone else in the back row on the end? Sorry.
Good evening, board. Thank you all for your service to the community. Been a resident of this area for over 50 years, raised my family here, and I just ask you to really consider the example this sets for our young people in the community.
Could I just have your name for the record?
Oh, sorry.
I know who you are, but.
Yeah, thank you. Jim Wilson, been, like I said, a resident for over 50 years. I just think the example this sets is really poor for our community. I think this village is better than this. I think $200,000 is a ridiculously small amount to jeopardize that. Love this area, love this community. I think we have enough challenges already with the bars and the gambling cafes. I don't think we need to add to the mix, okay? So I would ask for a satellite library location, another residential use, some other idea than this. So I know this is a tough decision for you all, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, back row there.
Good evening. My name is Miguel Campos. I'm La Michoacana owner, 9102 34th Street. I'm so nervous, I'm sorry. It's the first time in one of these things. I don't like the idea about the smoking shop because it's going to chase all my customers away, because the customers is not in my families, little kids, and they go most of the time salon, bicycles, walking, and pretty much it's dangerous for them. And I got a lot of comments already from them. A lot of customers told me already if I say something about it, if I want to do something. So I don't like the idea. If I be honest, I don't like it at all. And either the customers, they don't want the thing up there. Thank you. That's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Yes, on the end, sir. Sorry.
Good evening, Board. My name is Edward Papardis. I live at 3234 Raymond Avenue, Brookfield. I've spoken before at 2 previous meetings, my first 2. And what I've noticed is the amount of residents here tonight, and not last meeting, but prior, is probably quite high for meetings like this. As a matter of fact, I think you, Mr. Garvey, had said when that first meeting that I attended, wow, there's a lot of people here tonight. And that meeting did go quite long. It seems like this is a very sensitive issue for many residents here. And I'm sure there's a lot of residents that don't want to even get up and speak. Maybe they're too shy, maybe they don't know how to speak, or they have nothing, they don't know how to comprise their thoughts. But I think a lot of people don't want this here, and I would have you think that having all the emails that you received and all of the people that got up here and spoke against it, that you would think very carefully at what your vote will be tonight. I would think that if this was an ice cream shop or a coffee shop, like was stated, if that was a business that was going in here tonight, I don't think anybody would be here. You would just, yeah, okay, next. I'm not for it. I don't think it's a family business. I don't think it's gonna be good for our village. And another thing I thought of too, it was kind of funny, I was speaking to my mother-in-law about this, and she said, yeah, you know, when I was young and I was pregnant, I went to the doctor, and he said, oh, don't be nervous, everything's okay. Have a cigarette. Cigarettes were okay. They didn't have any studies, it's okay to smoke. Now look at cigarettes. Now look at all of the warnings on the warning labels on the packs. So not enough studies have been done, I don't think, about cannabis. I'm sure some will come out in the future, and that's maybe something that we also might want to think about. And that's all I have to say for this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming out again, appreciate it. Okay, any more on this side, left side? Okay, is that, and Mr. Clark, you have something else?
Yeah, I would like to say something.
Okay, just,
You wouldn't let a daycare center move in there, but you could let a cannabis shop move there? It doesn't make any sense to me.
okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. Can I? We're gonna end the public comment. The applicant is here. They've previously made presentations at the board meetings and the committees of the wholes, but I will give you a chance if you would like to say something during public comment. Again, you don't have to repeat anything in your previous presentations or in your packet, but you're gonna get the same freedom that everyone else got. So thank you. If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Nick Standerford. I'm a land use attorney at Shane Banks. I was brought in by the applicant to help make this presentation tonight and hopefully get this over the finish line. I was brought in because I've done a lot of cannabis dispensary zonings, and each one goes a lot like this. There's residents who have concerns, and the concerns that you've heard through the course of all these meetings, that you've read in the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission, those are the same concerns I've seen at countless hearings. And they're, you know, it's legitimate to have concerns, but the experience of having dispensaries has borne out that crime isn't really an issue. These are highly secure, like a bank, I think someone mentioned. I think the gentleman who's across the street said he was worried about this being a smoke shop. This is not a smoke shop. You can't smoke inside it. You get packages that are sealed, and you have a guard who patrols the facility. So you don't smoke inside, you take it, you go home, then you can take your gummies, your edibles, whatever you buy from the store. That's all you're not allowed to consume on site. Actually, that's a state law too. These are so highly regulated. The laws, you know, they submitted an application that was probably this big to try to get approved for their state license. And they're gonna have to, if they get this zoning permit, they'll have to go and they'll have to get, you know, looked at by the state. They'll have to make sure all the cameras are working. They'll have to make sure that the vault is secure. I mean, these are so highly regulated, and because the state wants to make sure they're safe so that the residents aren't concerned. Taxation, we talked, or medical cannabis, this is a adult use. So you don't have to have a medical card to use this dispensary. Me, I'm a lawyer. I'll say it on the record. I've taken some gummies before. I could go and go and buy cannabis. I don't need a medical card to do that. So the concern about less taxation isn't there. The location, this is a C4 district, local retail district to serve local residents. And that's important because in the traffic study that everyone, I think, got a copy of, talked about the other dispensaries that are in the area. You have North Riverside, Berwyn, Broadview, Westchester. There are a lot of dispensaries. And that's why this location, kind of being a neighborhood dispensary, is important. Folks who live in the community can go to it. They don't need to go to these other locations. Mr. Brendan May, who's here, can you raise your hand, Brendan, from KLOA. We provided a traffic report to show that we had sufficient, that wasn't going to impact traffic or parking in a negative manner. So I think the important takeaways from that are that you're not going to increase traffic in the alley. The customers beyond Brookfield will likely come west along 31st Street. Any use that goes into this building that's been vacant for 6 years is going to increase traffic. It's been vacant, has had no traffic. But that's important. Coffee shop's probably not going to go here. Obviously, an antique store didn't make it here. There's really no market. But what is there a market for? There's a market for the cannabis dispensary. These folks have tried so hard to get this zoning permit, and they're still at it. They even had brought me in to try to get this to the finish line. Let's talk about parking, because I know that's a recent issue that's come up. So the code requires, and this is all in the traffic study by KLOA, who's the top traffic engineering parking firm. They said that the code requires, they looked at the Brookfield code, it said 16 spaces are required. Okay, so there's 10 spaces, that's what the code requires. There's 10 spaces that are on site. They get credit for those, for 3 angled parking spaces. I think there's 6 there. They get credit for 3. They get credit for 3 more spaces at the new public parking lot across the street. So that's 16. So they actually meet the parking requirements at 16 spaces. And that's really important because I was also watching a lot of the minutes and the videos. There was a matter before you last month where I think the taqueria, which is 300 feet away from that parking lot, they were required to have 37 spaces. They got a variation for 15 spaces. We are across the street from the new parking lot. We have 16 spaces. 16 spaces are required. There's also a note in there that the village engineer says if parking is an issue, through the learned experience of the dispensary, you can add 4 more spaces there along Park Avenue. I haven't looked at the dimensions or anything, but the village engineer is saying that, I trust that that's an option. The last thing we wanted to bring up today, we wanted to try to help, the situation, make everyone feel comfortable. So we did propose another condition if the board wants to consider that. This would say that only 1 parking space is permitted to be leased to the residential units at the subject property. So I think there was concern, there's 3 residential units above. Are all 3 of those units going to have a parking space and take away from the 10 spaces that are on site? We only lease one of those units a parking space, and we're happy to put that in an ordinance agreeing to that, to only maintaining that 1 space for the residents above and not leasing out the other 2 spaces to the other 2 apartment units. So we thought that would be a good condition that the board may want to consider. And I think that goes to the special use factor number 3. All right, so let me close with this. Why is a vote tonight important? So obviously, I said the laws have been at this for a long time. They have a loan. It's basically a grant that they've applied for $145,000 for tenant improvements or operations of the facility. Well, if they don't get approved by sometime in March, that funding source is potentially lost. And so we are begging for a decision tonight in the positive. The laws have waited a very long time. Obviously, I don't know if anyone knows about these licenses for social equity applicants, but it was a mess with the rollout. And they've had to wait so long. I mean, how many years have you had to wait for this? So they've been at this for 5 years, and they found a site that they like. They found a site that they think that goes well with the village's zoning ordinance that'll bring revenue into the village and make for a secure facility. So we think this is a good use, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. Okay,
President, may I say just one last
Sure.
thing, please? One, thank you, everyone, for having us out. I want to just draw one little bit more attention to the forgivable DECO loan that we have applied for. It is contingent on zoning, and it is extremely time sensitive. I know that I've presented this at the first meeting, but I did raise my kids in LaGrange. My son and my grandchildren and my daughter-in-law Maggie live on Elm Street. You guys did agree and unanimously approve a cannabis dispensary in 2019, and you unanimously approved it right by Ellert Park, where my grandkids pay. That side of town seems to be okay. I promise you, we are extremely good at opening and operating these dispensaries, and we are exceptional community players, and we will be so if you approve us. So I hope you consider that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one more. Again, because the board wants to hear everyone talk, but we've got to be respectful.
Real quick, I don't think we
If
should
you could
end
state your name again.
Yeah, my name's Richard Donovan, 2925 Vernon. I don't think we should end on their comments. They're professionals, and they're paid to be here, and everybody's ha-ha-ha. But the bottom line is, it's really great to hear that they're going to protect their dispensary. That's really great. They're going to have safes just like a bank. It's going to be really secure. They're going to have a guard roaming the property. It's wonderful. But they're not roaming our neighborhood. They're not protecting our neighborhood. They don't care about our neighborhood. They care about getting this grant, and they care about opening this dispensary because they want to make money. And when they make money, they're telling you you're going to make money, because that's really important for you to know. They're going to make money, hence you're going to make money. The dispensary is a horrible idea, no matter how many paid clients they have here to speak. Think about that. Not these people who are professional lawyers, as yourself, Mr. Garvey, is a lawyer, to come here and tell you how wonderful it is. It's crap. You know it's bad. I know it's bad. 85% of the community knows it's bad. They want you to make a decision now, and they're trying to tell you if you don't make a decision now, they're going to lose their grant, which may mean they're going to pull out. They're not pulling out. They're not going to lose that grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, that ends public comment for the evening. We're going to move on to reports of special committees, please. Trustee Naramatsu?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the corporate warrant dated February 23rd, 2026, in the amount of $2,672,783.74. Second.
The motion to approve the warrant was made by Trustee Naramatsu, second by Trustee Kaluzny. Any highlights or anything?
We have about $231,000 for engineering costs for various projects throughout the village, in Energize Ogden, lead service lines, Grand Avenue, Perry Avenue improvements. $541,000 for the village's share of the Grand Avenue project, and then a little over $37,000 to White and Company for the Ellert and Creekside Park improvements.
Thank you. Do the board members have any questions or comments related to the warrant? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks.
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu.
Aye.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny.
Aye.
Motion carries.
With respect to Public Works, they have been busy at work filling potholes throughout the village, completing several tree removals, and responding to and resolving to water service leaks. They're also getting ready for spring with planting all their spring plantings throughout the village, preparing for capital projects, and getting ready for the opening of the Brookfield shops this spring. There are a couple of different announcements coming out for employment with the Public Works Department. They're looking for seasonal employees, and then announcements will be coming out soon for a deputy director of Public Works and a management analyst. As always, you can use the See-Click Fix function on the village's website to report any Public Works issues. And that ends my report.
Thank you. Trustee Gilhooley, Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, just a couple of announcements. The annual senior social was held yesterday at Sebastian's, sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce and supported by many, many chamber sponsors. Too many to mention here, but thank you to everyone who supported that event. Over 80 seniors came to the luncheon, And it's just a great annual event for our older adults here in town, and some come from local communities as well. So thank you to the Chamber for hosting that. And second, the Dancing with the Chamber, the third annual Dancing with the Chamber event is March 21st. That is a Saturday. You can get your tickets at brookfieldchamber.net. There's an events page there. It's right at the top of the page. You can buy your tickets online. I encourage people to do that sooner rather than later. That event is held from 7 to 9 p.m. at Riverside Brookfield High School. There will be 10 both local business members and community members going out for a pretty fun dance competition up on the stage there. So March 21st from 7 to 9 p.m. And then finally, just as always, remember to shop local. Got a lot of great businesses in town, many new businesses. So, when you think of somewhere to go, think local. And that's it.
Thank you, Trustee Gilhooley. Trustee Hendricks, Planning and Zoning Library?
Yes, the library's report, I mentioned this a couple meetings ago, but the library has been awarded $10,000 from the Carnegie Corporation of New York. The library is one of the original Carnegie Library institutions, and with this funding, they're excited to be offering a civic action lab featuring many programs, especially the StoryCorps initiative called One Small Step. You can see it in the spotlight on the cover of their newsletter. For the Planning and Zoning Commission, they will be meeting on this Thursday at 6 p.m. in this room, and we'll be working, the next meeting is working on revitalizing the zoning code. It's the zoning code update. It hasn't been updated in 60 years. A lot of work is going into that. Plan commissioners are working hard and getting into it. I'd also like to briefly talk about, I was appointed to a committee with the Illinois Municipal League. We had our first, I had my first meeting with them this past week, talking about legislative priorities for that group. In trying to support municipalities. Their concerns at the moment were after the governor's state address. They have some concerns. The local government distributive fund, please correct me if I got that acronym wrong, LGDF. The state is proposing reducing our share of that again, which is reducing revenues to the village. In addition, the governor's office is proposing something called the build proposal, which IML is very concerned about because it will dramatically change how local governments can have control over their zoning, particularly for residential areas. The proposal is looking to increase housing, but really is going to decrease the control that municipalities have over that. The proposal is talking about allowing accessory dwelling units, ADUs, on any residential property over 2,500 square feet, and allowing multi-unit housing on basically any residential property in the whole state. So these are big, big changes and could dramatically change our zoning codes across the state, and our work trying to change our own zoning code. So things to think about. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Trustee Hendricks. Trustee Ketchmark?
The EDC Commission did not meet this past month, and the next meeting will be on the 18th of March. During our Committee of the Whole meeting, we will have a presentation on the year in review by the EDC Commission. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Whitehead, Parks and Recreation?
Parks and Rec Commission met on Tuesday, February 17th. Commissioners met the new Parks Director, Matt Odom, who joins Brookfield after managing parks in Warrenville for several years. Matt is excited to work with commissioners to review and improve programming, events, capital projects, and everything the department is responsible for. I know the commission as well as the Parks and Rec Foundation both met Matt that evening, and he clearly has a passion for public service and already has some ideas and good energy for improving the department. So we're looking forward to working with Matt. Quick update on Ellert Park Field 1, our most active construction project right now. We are waiting on arrival of the dugouts. Fence installation will be completed when the dugouts are installed to ensure that these two aspects of the project are aligned. Right now, we are still on schedule to be completed prior to the start of the baseball season. We also are anticipating the team will be able to access the outfield and parts of the infield for practices during the final stages of Phase 1 construction for the project. Key dates: registration for summer camp begins March 2nd at 9 a.m. for residents and March 23rd at 9 a.m. for non-residents. The last few years, many of our summer camp programs have filled up quite quickly. So mark your calendars if you're interested in summer camp. The Brookfield Parks and Recreation Foundation is hosting our annual fundraiser on Friday, March 13th at 7 p.m. at Joe's. For those not familiar, the Brookfield Parks and Rec Foundation raises funds to support local families. Depending on your income level, families are eligible for discounts of up to 50% on all Parks and Rec programming, including before and after school, summer camp, and cooking, baseball, everything that the department offers. So really great cause. And then a really nice thing about the foundation is every dollar that goes to the foundation we can quickly put back into the community. We're not trying to raise a lot of money for a big capital project. We're trying to raise money to support local families who want to be better engaged in the community and keep their kids active. So Friday, March 13th is the fundraiser. Tickets are available at tinyurl.com/BPRF2026. Village staff, thank you, has also been doing a great job including information about the event in the digital newsletter and lots of communications the village is putting out. Admission is $35 or 2 tickets for $60. The price will increase to $40 at the door on the day of the event. This year's theme is Rewind to the 90s. We have some great decorations in the works, a bangin' playlist. You don't want to miss it. March 13th at 7 p.m. at Joe's. The commission next meets on Tuesday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. here at Village Hall.
Thank you, Trustee Whitehead. Trustee Kaluzny, Conservation, Beautification.
Yes, the Conservation Commission has not met since our last meeting, so I have nothing new to report, but they meet tomorrow night, February 24th at 6 p.m. here in Village Hall. The Beautification Commission has also not met since our last meeting. They meet next on March 3rd at 6:30 p.m. here at Village Hall. We don't get many visitors to both of those, but you're more than welcome, and I'll be bringing birthday treats to the one on March 3rd if that entices any of you to join us for another commission meeting. That ends my report.
Thank you, Trustee Kaluzny. In terms of the solid waste, WCMC, the WCMC did a survey recently of municipalities there's an attempt to try and recoup some of the expenses that municipalities lost due to the debacle with the property tax bills not going on time. Many municipalities had to take out loans, go into reserves, pay interest, and so there was a survey done of all the communities in WCMC, and there's going to be an attempt to sponsor legislation to help recover some of that revenue due to the, we'll just say, failure of the state, the county to get the property tax bills out on time. And to piggyback on what Trustee Hendricks brought up, there's also the governor during his, state of the state speech specifically targeted. I think I briefed the board after the WCMC legislative breakfast. One of the annual goals of the WCMC, one of their legislative priorities, is to restore the LDGF to the original amount that's in the statute, which is 10%. The villages are supposed to get 10% of this local government distributive fund. Years ago in state budget crises, the state had the ability to and took away the villages, not just this village, share all the municipalities, to help balance the state budget. They took away the share of money that they're supposed to collect for us and return to us. And it is now down to, as opposed to the 10%, it's now down to 6.4%. Actually, it's 6.47 right now. This year in the state address, the governor proposed decreasing it, not increasing it back to the 10% that it should be at, but decreasing it to 6.28%. And his logic is, with the growth in the state, the 6.28% will still garner the same amount that if they left it at 6.47, ignoring the fact that it's supposed to be at 10% and taking away the money we need to deal with a lot of the unfunded mandates we got from the state. So the WCMC is going to be actively fighting this. I ask you all to, I know sometimes you get these requests from the IML and the conference to do witness slips on this legislation that's out there. It's very important that we raise our voices on this, because not only are we not getting an increase, we're getting a decrease, which will impact our budget even further. So just pay attention to that as going forward. And as Trustee Hendricks mentioned, another attempt to take away local control, and we need to pay attention and try and do what we can to get them to pay attention to us. So, okay, that ends my report. At this point now, I'd entertain a motion to pass the omnibus agenda.
So moved.
Second.
The motion to pass the omnibus agenda is made by Trustee Kaluzny, second by Trustee Ketchmark. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark?
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead?
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks?
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu?
Aye.
Trustee Gilhooley?
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to items under regular business. The first item relates to the proposed cannabis dispensary special use permit at 9046 31st Street. There are two potential ordinances in the packet. The first one I'm going to entertain a motion to pass an ordinance to deny a special use permit for operation of a cannabis dispensary for the property located at 9046 West 31st Street.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Trustee Ketchmark, second by Trustee Kaluzny. Is there any question or comments on this is a motion to deny the special use?
President Garvey, we have had considerable discussion on this, as well as the Plan Commission having had considerable discussion. But I do not believe the applicant has met the requisite conditions for the approval of the requested special use on this particular property site. I do not believe the standards for granting of the special use have been met and approved by the applicant, particularly in terms of its compatibility with uses on site and with neighboring properties.
Other comments from the board?
I have an additional comment that in 2019, I voted, as well as others, to create an overlay district for cannabis dispensaries. C4 was included, as well as C1, other business districts as well. But a special use permit is based on every single location, specific location within those districts, not an overall. And I agree with Trustee Ketchmark that I don't believe that this particular location meets the special use permit standards of review.
Other questions or comments from the board?
Sure, I will go next. I do not see meaningful differences that would distinguish this business as from other retail uses nearby, including a liquor store and a bar and even other retail uses that might be preferred. I do not think there will be significant parking or traffic impacts that would result from this use, as distinguished from any other type of retail use that we could foresee at this location. While I understand and appreciate the concerns of the residents we've heard from over the past few weeks, and while other commercial districts may feel more flexible or better suited to some, I believe this proposal appears to meet the standards we've adopted. I see this as a family-owned but small business that's fundamentally different in nature from those I've seen in other cities on major thoroughfares, and I see our role as applying the code to the application before us rather than determining an ideal location elsewhere. I also give weight to the recommendation and expertise of the Zoning Commission, who voted in favor of this proposal, and our village staff, who have reviewed this proposal carefully. So based on my interpretation of our code and the special use standards and the information presented, I am comfortable voting to approve this proposal.
Other questions or comments from the board?
Yes. I just wanted to make a couple points. I know there's been lots of conversation as a board and feedback from the community on the C4 designation, whether or not this is appropriate use in the C4. As Trustee Kaluzny mentioned, a C4 is a permissible designation for a cannabis dispensary as the board when we first established this special use process. Also, if you look at the C4 language, I think what that's fundamentally focused on is the level and volume of traffic going to be disruptive to the surrounding community from a congestion and a parking standpoint. As to whether or not the customers are coming from Brookfield or from a surrounding community, I don't think we would ever tell a business that they can't serve people from outside the village, or only X% of your customers can come from outside the village. We want our businesses to be benefiting, yes, everybody who lives and visits here, but certainly be able to support customers from outside the village as well. The parking data that we do have and the traffic data, I think, shows, yes, of course, it will bring additional traffic to that corner, as would any retail business that is moving in there. But this is a state route that can accommodate the increased traffic based on the available data that we do have. As to the parking questions, I know we've discussed how many spaces are available in the rear of the building. I know that our village engineer, Hancock, has suggested that we could add additional spaces on the street, so I think we should at least have that conversation about parking. If people are concerned about the parking, we should consider options to add parking that can accommodate this business. And I think as many folks here know, this property has sat vacant for 6 years. At one point, a daycare wanted to come in here, and that application was not successful. Again, parking was a major concern since that time. The village has purchased a 12-car parking lot across the street, and we're hearing that parking is still a major concern and a reason why we should keep this storefront vacant. And so if folks are interested in rejecting the permit on parking grounds, I think we should have a discussion about that and consider options for adding additional parking if needed. And this board, nor was the Planning and Zoning Commission asked to consider a parking variance, because I know that staff's determination at the time was that a parking variance wasn't needed. So I think we should give this applicant due diligence if a parking variance is needed, and have that conversation as to whether the board and/or the Planning and Zoning Commission should consider a variance. As referenced earlier, we have granted variances on this very corridor for specific businesses that that fell short of the current parking requirements. These are not hard and fast rules. We have a precedent of allowing businesses to work within the grounds. And I just wanted to clarify, I know there's been conversation about the tax rate and the projections. Revenue certainly should not be the only consideration. There are many factors, many of which came up in the public comments, that we should be considering alongside revenue. But revenue, I do think, is important. We have lots of conversation as a board about how we are overly reliant on property tax revenue as a village when you look at how our budget compares to surrounding villages. I know from my family, a lot of families, property taxes, is a strain on affordability. So we need to grow sales tax revenue, and this would bring in significant sales tax revenue. Yes, the tax rate on recreational cannabis is 3%, but for each sale, we're also getting 1% of the sales tax on general merchandise and 1% non-home rule sales tax. So the cumulative sales tax rate is 5%, and those projections are using the correct number. I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board?
I think I have only a few things to add. We did put that parking lot in across the street in part so that this property would be able to be developed, because we recognize that the neighborhood was concerned about parking in this area. And I do believe that it does alleviate that. I feel that this particular application for this particular business will be discreet and probably one of the safest properties in town. I don't materially see it as different from any other retail property in town, and I am for it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, we have a motion, a second. Roll
President
call.
Garvey, if I could just maybe question the village attorney. I believe at your last village board meeting, there was a motion and a second to approve the special use, which was approved, and then the board voted to table it. So I believe there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Right, it's on the agenda, so you don't have to do a motion and a second to take it off the table. It's on the agenda, you can move forward with it. I remind the board that the ordinance before you is the ordinance to deny the special use. It's written in the affirmative to deny, so an aye vote is in favor of denying the special use. A no vote would vote down the ordinance to deny the special use.
That's not confusing at all.
I mean, I think Ann was trying to explain, if you're in favor of denying it, you need to vote yes on this. If you are against denying it, you need to vote no on it.
And,
Okay.
And to Tim's point, will we also have to vote on allowing it, or that's not?
That depends. If this ordinance passes denying it, there will not be the need for the alternative ordinance to be motioned second for discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second on the motion to deny the special use permit. Can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
No.
Trustee Hendricks.
No.
Trustee Naramatsu.
No.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny.
Aye.
President Garvey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you for everyone that was involved in the public comment, the public participation. I appreciate the courtesy that you showed to everybody. We're going to move on. We still have other items on the agenda. We're going to, I don't want to make people leave, but if people are going to leave, it's disruptive while we talk, so we're going to keep going. Is there anyone that wants to leave now, or? We still got some important things to discuss. I'm not kicking people out, it's just Maple Avenue Water Project?
Yeah. Regular business.
Okay, the next item, I'd entertain a motion to pass a resolution to award a contract for the Maple Avenue water main improvements to Suburban General Construction in the amount of $949,407.50.
So moved.
Second.
The motion was made by Trustee Kaluzny, seconded by Trustee Gilhooley. We have Dan O'Malley from Hancock Engineering here to give us a little bit of background on this, but also how another project and some word we got from IDOT relates to this. So, Dan, thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, I just wanted to take this chance to provide an update on the Maple Avenue resurfacing project since it pertains to this water main improvement project. So, as I believe all of you are aware, we are planning on resurfacing Maple Avenue this year from 31st to Brookfield Avenue. That is an STP project, Service Transportation Program, similar to what we've done in the past with Grand Boulevard, Burlington Avenue, and some of our other collector routes. So the village would get 80% funding through the STP for construction and construction engineering. It's an IDOT administered contract. So we just had the IDOT letting last month. And the low bidder for the project was a contractor called Builders Asphalt. So as some of you may or may not be aware, Builders Asphalt and IDOT have had a pretty lengthy and public legal dispute over the last couple of years. IDOT has not awarded any projects to Builders Asphalt since late 2024. They've kind of been at a standstill while these legal disputes continue. So we just wanted to inform you, it's independent from this project, but we are still working with village staff to try to determine what effect this may have on the resurfacing, what effect it would have in terms of schedule, in terms of the funding that's been committed for this project from the STP. And so we are trying to deal with IDOT on that. Our recommendation would still be to award this water main improvements project. We believe that the work still needs to happen prior to resurfacing, whether that is this year or whether it gets delayed. But we just wanted to make sure that you guys were informed, and we will continue to keep you updated as we get more information. So,
Thank you for the updates, Dan. Do anyone questions for Dan related to this? Okay, thanks for the update. Are there any questions in general regarding the resolution to approve the contract with Suburban General? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks.
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu.
Aye.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item, I'd entertain a motion for an ordinance for a time extension for variations of the parking requirements of at 8400 Brookfield Avenue.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by trustee Kaluzny, second by trustee Hendricks. We have a very detailed memo from our village planner, Scott Viger, about this. The village board meeting, we approved a parking variation at August 25th of 2025. There was a clause that it must be exercised within 6 months of the effective date in the ordinance. However, the petitioners did not close on the property until December 30th, 2025, and the last prior tenant lease expires February 28th, 2026. The school is now prepared to move forward, but is seeking a 6-month extension, as is allowed by the ordinance. Scotty, did I get that all right?
That's correct.
And is it staff's recommendation to recommend approval for the 6-month extension of time based on these circumstances?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Board members have any questions or comments for Scott or on this, or?
One thing in the ordinance, it notes the address is 9400 Brookfield Avenue.
Should be 8400.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm sorry, is there need to be a correction within the ordinance, or? I see the whereas.
Yes, I see it now, yeah. We'll do a motion and, it's a whereas clause. We don't need a motion and a second to amend it.
Okay. Is that the only place where it's 9400, trustee, the first paragraph, the whereas?
Yeah, the ordinance will extend the 6 months of the original ordinance, so there doesn't need to be a motion to amend the whereas clause here.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another one here too.
Oh, yeah, first.
The next whereas has it, but if, it doesn't matter on the
Yeah,
whereas.
yeah.
The whereas,
That's,
the whereas
it's,
paragraphs in general.
Yeah, it's a typo, I apologize, but that does not impact this. It's the extension of the 2025-52 ordinance.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second roll call on the motion to extend.
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks.
Aye.
Trustee Aramatsu.
Aye.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That ends the items we have under regular business. Tim, anything manager's report? Okay, that ends the items we have on the village board agenda. So it's 8:07 PM. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
The motion to adjourn was made by trustee Gilhooley, second by trustee Whitehead. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark.
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead.
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks.
Aye.
Trustee Aramatsu.
Aye.
Trustee Gilhooley.
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny. Motion carries.
Okay, we're adjourned at 8:08 PM. We'll go right into the committee of the whole meeting if we could.